You'll see the significance of the caterpillar waving a knife and fork and smiling at you a little later. But I'll just show you a few slides first of all, whereabouts we are. Most people that I spoke to when I said I was going to the Democratic Republic of Congo said, well, we've never heard of that, but where is it in relation to Zaire? Well, it used to be called Zaire during the days of President Mabuta up until the late 1990s. It's the third biggest country in Africa, and it has a very troubled past. You'll notice that it has a lot of countries bordering it, and in particular we have Rwanda. And the neighbouring countries have been involved in a lot of fighting and conflicts over the years, and that continues really up until this present day. Here is the United Kingdom in comparison. And the history of Congo is long and tragic. It began with this gentleman, King Leopold II of Belgium, who at the time that Belgium was emerging as a country, he felt that he needed to boost Belgium's prestige and power and riches, and the way he did that was when the other nations got together, the colonial powers got together to divide up the map of Africa. There was this big splodge in the middle called Congo, and nobody had ever been there. It was inaccessible, so he said, I'll take it for myself, and that's exactly what he did. He recruited Henry Morton Stanley, amongst others, to explore it, and he ruled it with an iron fist. Conveniently for him, during the second half of the 19th century, rubber became a huge commodity because of tyres, bicycle tyres, and because of electrical insulation, and so he had vast rubber plantations, and he treated the people as his slaves. Those who did not produce enough rubber for him had their hands chopped off, and that has been well documented. Eventually there was an international outcry about it, and he was relieved of his powers at the beginning of the 20th century, but not before the first international conference on human rights to press Belgium into doing something. The problems continued after he died in 1909. And in 1945, of course, we had the atom bombs, which used uranium from Congo. Congo is very rich in nutrients, in minerals, and Patrice Lumumba was elected the first Prime Minister of Congo after Belgium independence in 1960. However, unfortunately, within weeks of him becoming the Prime Minister, a rebellion started, led by his chief of army, Mabuta, and he appealed first to the West for assistance and wasn't offered any, and then he turned his attention to Russia, asked for assistance there. He died in mysterious circumstances. It's alleged that he was murdered, and in 1961, and it's alleged that had something to do with the Cold War and not wanting uranium to get into the hands of the Soviet Union. So a friendly face to the West was imposed, Mabuta, who was the archetypal kleptocrat. He even introduced laws saying that public servants and government officials were allowed to steal, and that anybody working for his government should be smart enough to be able to figure out how to get a nice income without earning any money. So he did not pay his officials, he expected them to steal from the population. But because he sold the West uranium, he was in our good books. Now, around about in 1994, the Rwandan genocide occurred, and out of a population of 8 million originally in Rwanda, nearly 1 million Tutsis were massacred in the space of a few months. I was at medical school at the time and vividly remember the images coming out of Rwanda. The minority Tutsis, however, managed to seize control and oust the murdering government of the Hutus, and 2 million Hutus then fled out of Rwanda into the city of Goma, which is just on the border by this lake. And you could say, well, 2 million Hutus arriving, some of them with blood on their hands, from Rwanda and pitching up at a city of a few 100,000. That's pretty destabilising. Well, that's right. And where are these 2 million Hutus and their children now? they're still in this area just outside Rwanda, and it is still leading to tensions and problems. Medair's working further north. We're working in this area around Lake Albert, in what's called the Ituri province, where there was a brutal civil war over the last few years. Now, Rwanda sent in troops in 1996, 1998. They toppled Mabuta, and in the ensuing melee, several other countries, including Mugabe, sent in military supplies from Zimbabwe. Angola joined in, Sudan, Colonel Gaddafi, and before we knew where we were, there were something like 9 countries fighting one another in DRC. They quickly turned their attention to the minerals, and a lot of the fighting was not so much due to political struggles or the Hutu-Tutsi crisis, but control of mineral fields. At the same time all this was going on, there was a conflict going on between 2 tribes in the far northeast of the country, in this area, which caused tens of thousands of deaths and devastated a large part of the countryside. Altogether, since 1998, it's estimated 5.4 million people have died in Congo, making it the bloodiest war since the Second World War. It's even known as Africa's World War. And the tragedy is, many of us don't even know where it is on the map. So this is where we are, in Bunia. We have a second base in Iziro. And the programme's been running for over 10 years, with operations running from these 2 centres, providing logistical support for several hundred health centres and around 50 hospitals. When I say hospitals, they don't have running water, they don't have electricity often, and a population of something like 2 or 3 million people have been or are being served by this programme. It includes supervising clinics, training health workers, making responses. Last Christmas was pretty busy. We had cholera, plague and Ebola simultaneously to deal with, drug distribution, physically rebuilding the hospitals. You'll see a little video clip of that hopefully shortly. Reducing maternal mortality, fighting malaria. We also offer assistance in rural clinics, medical assistance for victims of sexual violence. Thousands of women every month are raped in Congo. And also there are many hundreds of thousands of internally displaced people and refugees, and we're offering free care to those people and assisting with clinics when a huge number of refugees pitch up at a clinic because they've been driven out of their homes. We offer assistance to the clinics to help deal with and support the massive influx that these populations have. The city of Dungu recently, for example, a city of 50,000 people fled into the jungle when rebels from Uganda invaded. That's completely unrelated to the conflict going on in Goma, several hundred kilometres south. It's a completely different rebel group that's attacking there. But Goma is quite easy to get to. Dungu is almost impossible, and so hardly anybody's heard of that problem.